Well, I'm just sitting here on my computer messing around with my tune and just checking out, having a look at my logs a little bit here. And I noticed, you can see here, if I'm commanding the correct pressure here, you can see I'm pretty much, my actual is the same as my desired, which is great. And then you see my actual falls down to the desired again and then comes back up and it's okay. But over here, if I'm commanding too much pressure or my duty cycle is a little too high in the tune, you can see it overshoots a bit, and then right up here it goes all the way to like 25,000. So the fuel pressure relief valve in your rail is meant to start opening at like 23 to 25,000. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going on right here. You can see 25,000 and I let off, and then it just drops way down here to like 2,000 psi in the rail, and you can definitely feel that when you go to shift. You can see I'm putting more pedal in here trying to get the fuel to come on, but it's just not, because I'm at 2,000 psi. So you can see the duration is coming up super high to try and counteract that, because if you look at the maps, it's like the lower pressure you run, the higher duration you're going to be running. So you can see the duration is coming up here to counteract that, but not as much over here. And so a longer duration and lower pressure, you're just going to have a lot more smoke and no power, obviously. So I have one of these guys right here, just a rail plug. You can get them on eBay for like 10 bucks or something like that. They're super cheap. And I've been doing, it's not even focused. I've been doing like some research on it, and I mean, it just seems like a bad idea to plug off your safety pressure relief valve. But at the same time though, the whole system, it's the same as a hydraulic system. I mean, if you're commanding full fuel right here, if this thing will focus for me again. If you're commanding full fuel right here and then you let off, your ECU is going to see that, your pressure sensor is going to see that you're at full fuel, so the FCA duty cycle is going to lower to counteract that, because you're not going to be commanding as much fuel now. So in theory, it shouldn't really go to an unsafe level, especially if you're actually running your tune correctly down, like your desired and your actual are pretty close together. You should be okay. So I'm going to throw this, here we go. I'm going to throw this rail plug in today in my truck and give it a go and just see what it does, because I've read a lot of stuff that people say it's just horrible and you're going to crack your injectors and stuff like that, but from what I've seen in my own logs, my own personal experience, it should be okay, because if you let off super hard, you're no longer requiring fuel, so the FCA should open right up and the pump shouldn't be pumping any more fuel at all, so you really shouldn't have too much of an issue. Unless you're running like 30,000 psi and then you let off, yeah, maybe you're going to have an issue. But for a daily driver truck that's just running basically stock rail pressure at max, like 23,000, you should be okay. So I'm going to throw that in right now and we'll give it a go. Alright, so this thing we're messing with today is, right here, this guy. We're just gonna swap it with this. And then no more fuel pressure goes up this line to my tank anymore. Well, I'm pretty sure it's doing that. I'm not 100% sure. That's why I'm giving it a try. Well, I thought this was pretty interesting. I just pulled this out. I had a bunch of like plastic shit in there. Pretty weird. It's definitely fuel in there, but it is connected to the return system, so I mean, if there was higher return pressure, maybe it would come up here, but it wouldn't make sense either though, because you can't bleed any air, so it must be overflowing if there's fuel in there. I don't know, we'll see. Well, it was on there super tight, so I had to move the line out of the way a little bit so I could get a deep socket on there. but it seems to be loose, so pull this out. Oh, it looks clean in there at least, that's good. Definitely lots of fuel in there. I want to see if I can shim this one, but I couldn't find anything online about shimming the 5.9 one. I could only find the 6.7 one, so I don't know. I'll mess with it a little bit, I think, but for now I'm going to put this plug in. Let's see how that goes instead. I'll just watch the logs really closely on the next couple drives here, and we'll see how it goes. Cool. I'll just tighten it back up, put the line on, and we'll go for a drive. I think it's a pretty tight little, pretty well built little unit here. I don't even know how you take this thing apart. I'll have to go do more research. I'm pretty sure that rubber stuff that I found in here was from this little washer here. This one was sitting like this, and this was actually really loose too. Like, I was surprised it just came right off. So maybe it had slight air leak here. And that's that. Simple. Hopefully it doesn't leak. I'll put my GoPro on the window so you can see my gauges and stuff, and I'll go for a drive, and I'll see if I can make it spike up really high, or if it just runs normal. It's much quieter with pilot injection. It's ridiculous how much that makes a difference. Let's see what it does when I just rev it. Well, I don't see any issues there. Oh, we're not at very much pressure yet, so I'm just waiting for my truck to warm up, and then I just go for a little cruise, and then I'll start roping on it. So far, no rail pressure issues. Just about to drive up this hill now that my truck's starting to warm up. And I'll really open it up and we'll see what happens. just looking over all my logs to see if there was anything bad, and I mean, there was no spikes that were anywhere near capable of hurting my injectors or my fuel rail or anything like that, so I'm going to keep running it for a while at least and see how it goes. Just keep an eye on it. Because I mean, I think this was the worst spike I got right here. 25,000 PSI. And I mean, I've ran 25,000 PSI in my tune before for like a couple of weeks on end. And I mean, it was just leaking out the rail pressure relief, I'm pretty sure, but your rail and your injectors can definitely handle that much pressure. It's not a big deal there. Maybe if it was spiking up over 30 PSI, I'd start getting a little worried, but for now I'm going to keep running it like this and keep an eye on it, because I noticed like here between gear changes, it's not dropping as far as it was before. I don't have any of the other logs open right now, but it used to drop a lot further, like, I don't know, it used to drop way down, way lower PSI, so then once you get back into the fuel after changing gears, then it takes a little bit longer for that fuel to build up again, and then you run a higher duration to make up for the lower pressure, and then you just roll a little bit of coal in between gear change, or it sits a little bit or whatever. It's a little bit smoky, and you don't have that same power. So ideally you don't want it to drop below your commanded at all, ever, so it definitely helps a little bit there. I also noticed right here, you can see how it's from about 1800 to about 2400. It's a little bit lower than commanded in a couple of my poles here. See, so about 2400 to 1800. Looks like there's a little bit of a dip there. So to try and fix that, I'm just going to come over here to my fuel pressure duty cycle, and then in the 100, because that's the highest one, between 1800 and 2400, so I'd probably bump up this 1800 a little more, because over 2400 it seems to be fine, and at 2400 it's fine, but between 1800 and 2400 it seems a little low. So if I was to bump this up a little to maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll go 19, and then I'll run that, and I'll keep an eye on my logs again, and then I might be able to get rid of this slight dip here and have it more close to the commanded fuel pressure.